stuck in the mail. Stuck in the mail. Stuck in the mail.
Hi, welcome to Stuck in the Mail, Return from Japan edition. Mike, buddy, how are you doing?
I am great. I'm excited to hear about your trip.
Okay. Shall we start with the cat here? My wife's cat.
Let's do it.
Okay. Uh, my wife's cat is a feral barn cat that lived on her property that she sold. She sold before we got married. Um, I did not think the cat would be able to be moved, period. The cat was moved with some great degree of difficulty. Um, like I said, it's a feral barn cat. It has no domestication. It didn't have a name. I actually named it. Um, I named it Sabrina because Sabrina the Witch, I think, or whatever that show was. Sarah liked it. Had Clarissa Explains It All. If you want to turn this into a 90s Nicktoons pod. Uh, yeah, it got here against all odds. It got here. The problem is, I would say for as long as it's been here, maybe 2.5, 3 years, there really hasn't been what I would call progress. Um, and now I think even the separation for a week while we're in Tokyo, kind of made it revert more to, it just hasn't done anything. It's not strong and it's kind of reverted back to kind of its true nature.
Hmm.
And and it's just it's kind of like trapped. It's physically here, but I don't know where it is mentally, but I'm sure it's not a good place. And there's very little that I can do. So um it's a long conversation. That's the start. Um
Did you leave food out or do you have someone come by or how do you handle that?
yeah, my mom was taking care of both the cats. And as I think you know, my cat is the exact opposite. Um it was the orphan cat. And I got it from the Humane Center in 2009. And if it was feral, if you believe that all cats are feral, which I mean, I assume deep down their nature is to be feral, but I mean, he couldn't be more domesticated. I carry him around like a baby, and I talk to him, and he talks to me in cat language, which is usually more like a bunch of, uh, it's more like music, I guess. I remember your guys' cats. We'll get this on a topic here leading into episode one, if this isn't it. I remember your cats, and it just made no sense to me. Every time I go there, I was deathly allergic to them and the dander. And your brother would make fun of my mouth breathing. It's lucky that one orifice of mine worked because I was not breathing, period. But your cat, BD and DD, and you guys, if any strangers had shown up there, you thought you were in a loony bin. But I know that it worked because I do the same thing with my cat. His name is Smokey Joe, but because he's a big pig and he eats a lot, his name has changed over the years and it became Bubba. But that whole like repetition of sound, Bubba. So
Hmm.
like, I'll be outside and I go, Bubba, 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 Bubba. And it's not. Cats are like, they must be Japanese because the Japanese language is the quickest amount of monosyllabic uh you know well I just said it there. It's a quick series of monosyllables, like usually two letters strung together.
Yeah, like a consonant and a vowel, like
Yeah.
Kawasaki.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's really easy, but it can be a series of inhales and exhales. Like some words are an inhale and an inhale. Like no, no is like "Ewa," and that's no. It's like, okay. And then, of course, to say yes, you just go, "Hey!" Did you think you'd get a language lesson with this too?
This is good. This is good. I mean, I
Yeah.
wondered
So,
how you would be able to communicate over there, like if English is widely spoken, or how did you handle that?
well, I mean, I think for most people it's the language barrier, but uh, you know, I I don't know much Japanese, but the a mastery of a language can essentially be with the voice, you know? So by the end of the trip, and also it's a very different culture. It's a public versus private. Like you can't be out in public. You can't be looking at people. You can't be you can't be doing anything except minding your own business. You can't be pointing. I pointed a lot and I was like, oh, this is bad. I had a couple very strange looks. They're like, oh, Viking man. That's a Kinnikuman. So that's the one that got me. That's where this episode really starts. That's where I wanted to start this off here.
With
So
Kinnikuman?
Kinnikuman, yeah. You see how difficult it is to say, right? It took me the whole trip just to say that one word. And I couldn't say it. Every time I was like, Kinnikuman or something like, but the reason is because it's an exhalation, an inhalation, an exhalation, and inhalation. So Q ni Q man.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see.
Muscle man.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
maybe
then of course,
would you explain that for our viewers who are watching this?
yes. Uh uh Kinnikuman was a Japanese manga, which is a comic, of course. And it started in the 80s, of course. And it, of course, branched into an anime because that's what happens in Japan. They make a manga, which is the comic, and then they animate essentially the comic, more or less, as an anime. And, I never realized that most of my childhood, literally everything that I loved, toy-wise, was from Japan. As you as well. Now, not Lego. That's a unique difference there. That's from Denmark, and it's good to see the Lego brand so much bigger than I would have ever dreamed, with every IP available.
Mhm.
Literally, saw a Lego store in the Narita airport actually.
Mhm.
So,
Well,
um,
and Kinnikuman, of course, we knew it as Muscle Men.
yes, which stands for
Mutants
no.
under, I don't know. Remind me.
Keep going, please. Keep going. Mutants
Mutants
under.
under. Yeah, I knew it once. I don't remember.
It is actually so it's the rebranding. So Kunikuman, the toy, we gotta cover all the bases here, was originally a gashapon. So a gashapon is a like everything in Japan. I'm gonna preface this here, is like a hyper evolved version. So I assume that America invented the coin operated gumball. We had the gumball. Also, at some point, the gumball had prizes in it. We're going way back here, by the way. I've done some amount of research, but not for this episode, just for life. But so the Japanese took that idea to the next level. And so the just for sake of being able to say it better, Musclemen in Japan started out as what's called kankeshi. And kankeshi is basically like I think keshi means eraser.
Mhm.
So like it's made out of like almost like you'd like could correct your homework with it. And Kankeshi, I guess, is like gum eraser. So they weren't edible, but they made these little cheap molds. A lot of Japanese toys were made kind of small places, family businesses, and then they would go into these gashapons, which are gumball machines. Like we had here. Remember, like the chicken one? That's
Yeah,
an American.
that's what you see over in like in the airport where they'll have all the
Yeah.
like machines. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, and at the airport in Narita, it was crazy. There was like, I don't know, 1,000 of them.
Well, and can't you buy like sandwiches and stuff like that too?
Not in a gashapon. I mean,
Okay.
probably somewhere you can get. I mean, there was a beer convenient vending
Vending
machine
machine.
on our floor. Yeah. I mean, it's a very popular thing, and I think it's because Japan to me was like really elevated tech, but some of it was like outrageously out of date. Like,
Mm.
for example, when you go to the 7-Eleven, which I did probably about 20 times. uh, and that's a whole nother conversation. I'm trying my best to keep this on a topic here, I promise. But yeah, so there you would like you literally could drop your coins or your money, and then a machine, almost like a coin op counting machine, would take it so the cashier didn't have to. But it
Mm.
all seemed out of date because I don't know how you buy things, but I hold my phone up, it goes beep, and then on their end they press a button, it goes beep, and it's like beep to the beep. That's how I buy things.
Yeah.
And so it seemed wildly out of date, but it must have been super awesome for the past 20 years, you know?
So for those vending machines, you're still putting like physical money in them?
Yeah, and you're putting coins, which are still in good use. It's almost like a good use of coins, which in the US, there's not much use for coins. Most people throw away anything less than a quarter or they save it in a giant jar. I call it my coin collection, like actual physical coin collection.
I was just
Um,
about to hold up my coin jar because it's like
Oh,
red.
okay. Yeah. I mean, everyone has one, and it's like there's no real point to it. I mean, you could go to Coinstar, and that would be the only if you went to Coinstar and took that jar, instead of that, in doing that, you could actually people still smoke there. You could buy cigarettes, you could buy sandwiches, you could buy beer, you could buy a manga magazine, you could buy anything.
Hmm.
And it's like every place, they're called kobinis. It's a convenience store, and they were actually put in for gaijin, as far as I know. Gaijin means foreigners because Japanese. Japan is such a like. I don't want to say anything negative, but there is a certain element that is kind of like everyone's like they move as one, like in one piece, like the flow and like how even they flow off the subway into the 7-Eleven and there's no decision making.
Mm.
So they flow in, they know what they want. They've been dreaming about that pesto with cream cheese chunks and tomato, which by the way, all the food, even at these Kobinis, was literally a 10. We kind of lived there. We were typical gaijin, very typical, very typical. And Sarah, I'm not going to throw her under the bus, but the poor girl, she wasn't anywhere ready. She's just a little Willits small town girl. And I think I've flipped her reality like completely on its head. Like I would say that I flipped my reality on its head, but it's almost the exact opposite because back to where this conversation was with us in the 80s, and I want to come back to that. But I've always had this thought that Japan, well, let's call it the edge of the world because no one goes across the Pacific, right? At least not till modern times. But it's the edge of the world. After that's the date line. So I've always had this belief that this is the hyper evolved form of society, and now I have confirmation. So what do
The
I do
first,
with it?
the first ones to greet the day.
Yeah, yeah, the land of the rising sun. Yep, and it's true too. It's wild. I mean, my life has been completely changed as well. I want to share that with you. Um, it's wild. But getting back to the story here, this is an important story. We're documenting literally here the beginning, the beginning. So Kinuki, see, so I always want to say Tanuki, which is like a cross between it was in Mario 3 of all things.
The raccoon, right?
It's a cross between a raccoon and a dog, and it's real, and it's from Japan. And there's a whole nother topic right there, but let's put Tanuki aside. But Kinukuman, Kinukiman, also known as Muscle Man. Muscle stand when it was Kinnikuman. This is a very tough episode. I'm getting it all right here. I've only coherent thoughts this morning. Uh, they uh, they were rebranded. So the Japanese was Bandai, and they're rebranded here. I don't even remember the toy company. Let's call it Mattel, I believe it was. And they were changed to Muscle. So you had thought Muscle was millions of
Mutant.
or mutants. So what Muscle really is millions of, I'm probably gonna forget here. Oh boy. Millions of something strange creatures lurking everywhere. Millions of something strange creatures lurking everywhere. So there's one little preposition in there they don't count, but
Okay.
but they rebranded it, these Kankeshi, these Gashapon toys, these gumball toys, into in America in 4 packs. Do you remember your first muscle pack? Do you remember where you got muscle? Because we both had a lot of them and we had
I,
no
it was probably at, oh man, I don't remember the name of that toy store. The one that
let
was,
me guess. Let me
what's that?
guess. Was it Ukiah or Santa Rosa?
Ukiah.
Okay, I would be toy and model.
Toy and model. That's got to be it.
Okay. So do you have any memory of obtaining them or what you got? Was it a 4 pack? They also had like 10 in a garbage can. Do you remember a clear garbage can? I remember you had a lot. I had a ton somehow.
By the way, the word is unusual.
Yes, yes. Millions of unusual small creatures lurking everywhere. There were even spin-offs. There was even a female one called Cuties. But anywho, I digress.
I definitely remember the hand, and I remember the one that was like a city building, like a skyscraper
Yeah.
looking thing. Those
Yes.
those are the
Yes.
two I
Yes.
remember very vividly.
Those are your spirit muscle men. You know what? I'll tell you something that's really interesting. I know both those ones, and the hand is one of the most valuable ones.
Huh.
Yeah, because there's like 200 something, and then in Japan there was like 400 something.
Hmm.
And the poses, this is a, I hope you're ready for this whole, I hope you're recording this. This is going to be the greatest episode ever. I mean it. I mean it. I'm so in Japan there was like 400 something and of the Konkeshi, and then in America they were a little harder plastic,
Mhm.
not as posable. They would all just kind of stand. They had different poses, but the Japanese ones were actually made to be played like what they were, which were uh, wrestlers.
Okay.
It's Japanese wrestling, and Japanese, like Mexico, is incredibly into wrestling. But that's not what we know isn't important. What we don't know or what we thought we knew is what's important. So when we were kids, what did you think these things were?
Just strange, unusual creatures. I mean, it's funny to me like how this was the monoculture sort of toys. Like who thought, oh, let's import these Japanese figures? Like why was that the thing that we got in small town California? You know?
I mean, they were everywhere. They did not come in a gumball machine. I mean, they should have. They could have. They hyper marketed it. They're like, we're not going to sell these one at a time. Let's sell them in four or 10. And then do you remember the bigger ones? Like I got a pack of like, is a long like thing of like 20. And I think that's how I
Yeah.
ended up with so many. And then
Well,
later, different colors.
I imagine they were relatively inexpensive. I mean, it wasn't like I remember buying Battle Beasts, and I mean, you would get two. And what was great about that is you could see, oh, I'm getting the elephant and the snake. Like this
Yep.
is the pack I want for my $6.
Yep. You with the 4 pack or the 10 pack of muscle, you didn't even know what you're getting. Like the 4 pack, you could only maybe see like two figures.
Uh-huh.
So, I
I don't
mean,
have a lot of memories of muscle, to be honest.
really, I
Yeah.
think I think it's one of the few toys that I had more of than you because I
Uh-huh.
mean, I'd come over to your house with my one little Lego Knight playset, and you'd have like this entire kingdom, and I was like, "What the heck?"
I
Or
feel
like,
like for me, the muscles were like the foot soldiers. They were like
yeah,
the I don't know, the pawns of the universe.
yeah, they were very basic. Do you know why that kind of stuff was really successful in the 80s? Like by the way, Battle Beast was Beast Formers, a spinoff of Transformers, which we didn't know. And also they were by Takara, which is also Japanese, like Bandai. And so the reason why they were big was that um here, What do you got? You got a muscle? Oh yeah. So we got cat and bat, right?
Yes.
Those are both first edition, first line of them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone loves bat. Like everyone loves bat. I think the cat's cool. Bat totally rules though. There's
Still got the
no
sticker on there.
the sticker makes it sicker.
I wonder if I can find out what he is. That
Problem with those is that they wore off, which is why the laser beast had the gems.
Mhm.
But so here's the thing. Why were those so popular in the 80s? Muscle, Battle Beasts. We're just going to stay on the two lanes we know here. I'm sure there's others. Why do you think they were popular? Do you have any school memories?
As far as why they were popular is because you could use them to fight each other. Like the Battle Beast, it was the paper, rock, scissors thing. It was fire,
Yep.
wood, and water.
Yep, little
Um,
game. And Sunshine, which beats anything. They it was so wild. I don't know if I had any, but
I feel like even like my He-Man figures, they had like the ones where you could punch them and they would get more cracked. So it was
yeah.
like there
Yep.
there was a cumulative, like tangible,
Yeah.
like it would change
Experience.
based on how well you were doing in your battle.
Yeah, no, exactly. There was Matchbox cars with that too. Crash them into each other, it hits the thing, and then it shows damage. Like that was one of my favorite things was playing with the when I was really young. I don't think we ever did that. We just had micro machines,
Mhm.
which was really fun. But getting back to the handheld little figure thing, as opposed to the more popular Kenner or Masters of the Universe thing, where it's 3 3/4 scale or 5 1/4 scale or whatever it was. The thing with Muscle, obviously, originally was that it was in a gumball machine, and they were cheap. But the progression of that is definitely to Battle Beast. But the most important thing is that you could have it in your hand and you could take it to school. And if you were smart, they wouldn't see it and they wouldn't take it from you. It's true.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So one of my first memories of Muscle actually is seeing it on the playground, like a kid having it, and then he didn't show it, and then at recess he opened his hand and he had a Muscle Man in there. But the weird thing is, it's a very important point, you know. But the weird thing is that I mean, we've had this discussion because I've kind of discovered them over the past years, really discovered it, rediscovered them now. But did you ever in your wildest dreams think that they were Japanese wrestlers?
I don't think I thought about it too hard. I just thought like they were strange like creatures. I didn't
They're,
I didn't think wrestlers.
yeah. But the main guy, King Muscle, uh, and a lot of them do have Japanese on them. He has a cape, he has a mohawk with like a swirl, and he has a kanji on his head,
Hmm.
and the kanji on his head actually translates to muscle, but what it actually translates to is meat. It
Well,
it translate it translates to meat because the kanji for muscle is meat because we eat meat. We don't eat fat. You can eat fat, but traditionally kanji is a very ancient calligraphy is very ancient kind of like picto language. So the kanji on his head does mean muscle, but it means meat when you see it like that as its own. So it's pretty hilarious.
yeah, I don't know if it was a marketing fail or maybe it was intentional, but I didn't realize that there was a King Muscle, that there was one protagonist. And maybe if I had known that, I would have realized that they were supposed to be wrestlers. But to me, they were just miscellaneous weird creatures.
Yeah.
And I didn't have kind of like with Battle Beasts. I never had the lion, and the lion is supposed to be like the main one.
Yeah, Pirate Lion is O1. He's the first one. And then for Muscle, it's King Muscle. Now, obviously, the Japanese lion compared to the Americans is very different, but there was a bad guy. Do you know the bad guy, the leader of
I do
the
only because I looked it up when you were posting about all this.
yeah,
Terry Bull.
Terry Bull. So that obviously is a change. In Japan, most things were whatever it looked like and then man. So uh uh I think Terrible was Terry Man, which doesn't make as much sense. It's not as fun. Um, but in America, they changed him to Terry Bull. So they actually had all this lore, even though they like there weren't, I don't remember there being stories on Muscle Men, but there certainly should have been.
Mhm.
Help kids read too or something. But yeah, so you got King Muscle and you got Terry Bull with his horns, one broken horn, and then there's factions. Uh, when I was collecting Muscle Men, I remember being really into the littler ones because there was ones that were like even smaller. There was one that looked like a cross between either Cousin It or a Peanut. Do you remember that?
Not
Do you remember?
really.
I assume it's like Cacahuetes Man or something, but I don't really know. It really does look like a peanut, but there was an announcer and it looked like an announcer and it had a mic and it was a little like reporter and it looked slightly Japanese. And I remember that guy really well and being like, why is this guy in here? Like, what is he? And the truth is that he was the wrestling announcer.
Hmm. Now I'm wanting to go through all my old, like, I don't know, possessions and see if I still have any of these things.
Well, I mean, we can, that's the great thing about nostalgia is that people say with retro toy stuff that, or with music, with anything, the connection can be remade even if it's not your toy. If it's just the one that you had, like I know you got my reconstructed Moss Man there. I can see him. That's another great place for this episode to begin because I remember having that toy. And I remember vividly, maybe more than any toy, being like, this is the greatest toy in the world.
Should I
And
pick
then
them up?
yeah, I gave it, I let your brother play with it, and he must have really liked it because he either stole it, which I don't think Brian would do, or he lost it. He lost it in my yard. There he is. There's the epoxy. I did a great job there. At least he's together. I haven't epoxied many things in my life, but so that was the greatest toy, the greatest, right?
Pretty great. And he's a He-Man
Yeah.
villain, right? Yeah, yeah.
Uh, actually, that's a really important thing. I think he's a good guy.
Ah,
I really do. Masters of the Universe. But the people today that collect Masters of the Universe call it MOTU for short, Masters of the
right.
Universe. So
Yeah,
they got the
he was
yeah.
kind of like a bumbling sidekick of Skeletor, but
Um, no, I think no, I think he's a good guy. I'm not positive, but
I'm thinking of the
he's
wolf
actually
guy.
yeah, Beastman. Do you remember Beastman?
Beast Man, thank you. Yes.
Actually, they're actually the same sculpt. They're the same sculpt. And what's really funny is that the chest and the mid piece and the legs and the arms generally are the same sculpt for all the He-Men. So they're only changing the head.
Mm.
Pretty crazy, just different colors and flocking and different weapons, different armor, different attachments, but they're literally selling the same toy over and over again. But at least with Muscleman and Battle Beasts, they actually had different sculpts, because they have to pour usually the soft vinyl or whatever into a mold. So,
So
uh,
is the figure that you bought over there that you were posting about,
okay.
is that King Muscle?
It is. That was a company called Five Star Toys that was only in Japan, or I haven't fully researched it. There's a big collector's market in Japan and worldwide for more like they're not the modern equivalent of art toys, but what they are is, I believe, pretty small batch, kind of like if you and I started a toy company, which I know this sounds crazy, but especially with Gashapon where they're so small, someone could this goes back. Like, let me grab something here.
Is and Gashapon, that's the vending machine thing?
So like after World War II, the Japanese were using scrap metal, probably left over, unfortunately. And this one's more modern, but these are basically handmade out of like tin.
Mhm.
This one's wind up, but still got a little wind in them. I have a small collection here. What was your question?
Is Gashapon, does that mean the vending machine thing?
Yeah, that's the vending machine.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're everywhere. They're really popular. I'm actually trying to get a hold of one here. The problem is we don't really have the appropriate coins because if it was quarters, which is our largest coin denomination, these gashapon generally cost like $3 about in
Yeah.
yen. So it's about 300 to 500 100 yen coins, but that's only like 3 to 5 coins. If it was in America, you'd have to put 4 times that, so you'd have to put 12
Yeah.
to 20 coins in. So it doesn't work. I'm thinking that maybe someone converted some to Susan B's or Sagalawea or whatever, coins.
Hmm.
And then I could put some in my buddy's shop and, they could have to buy them at the counter. And then hopefully no one just bought the coins and left with the coins. But if they did, equal value.
I used to love
Yeah,
those 2 pound coins in the UK.
yeah, 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 yeah. They have something similar in Japan. It's called a 500 yen.
Hmm.
Um, and that's the highest coin denomination. Yeah, they have like the not gold but gold color around them, and they're a little stubbier and thicker.
Yep.
Um,
Very satisfying.
we really like almost everything, and I know this now for a fact. Like everything in America, they're just this insane static need for upgrade, and coins or removing coins is certainly one of those things. We just can't move along as a country. And getting back to Japan and my experience there, my whole life I kind of assumed that Japan was this hyper evolved, very Western influenced, but somehow still in the old world like place.
Hmm.
And it would be somewhat like, my vision of what America should be like. And it was really kind of like disconnecting, but at the same time, very, very fulfilling to be like, well, I was right. Now what do I do with that? What do I do with the fact that all my life I was right? I was right about this place, and it does exist, and it is here on Earth, and it's amazing, and it's very different, and I like it
Yeah.
a lot.
What
I
was
miss it actually.
what were some of the best things you did?
Well, I came in with the mindset of like all these things I wanted to do, but we were limited. We were limited. Culture shock is something that it can be very difficult for some people. I think the reason why Japan has always remained so secret, even though everyone knows about it, is because I mean I've even heard people who travel everywhere, like India, Middle East, Africa, and they'll say the one place I didn't get was Japan. Um,
Meaning they didn't get to it or they just didn't understand
no,
it.
meaning they went there and it was so. And I'm gonna get a little heavier here on this topic, but I think the thing is with Japan is that it does feel Western enough. It
Mhm.
does feel. I mean, the Westernization is way different. Like India, Middle East, Africa, way more foreign. But the thing that's different in Japan is the culture, the customs, the mentality is so different and so different than probably anywhere. Like if you were to go to Iran, I would imagine that mentally you would be closer to here. Um, but I loved it. I mean, I'm mentally, I'm mentally wherever I need to be.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I've been alive for 45 years, and it really I was actually saying to people, keep this a little lighter. I was telling people that it took me 45 years to get there, and it's true. But that's not that bad, right?
I'm
So
I'm just so glad you got to do it.
yeah, it's really it was I mean, I'm going back someday. Haichiko waits for me.
So tell me more about like is the Western like American mindset the the individualism? like what's the difference, like the main like philosophical like approach to life that you've known your whole life, but you go over there and you're like, wow, this is so different. Is it that sense of
Um,
the collective, the customs from centuries? Like what is it?
yeah, I would say like um hmm, it- I choose my words wisely here as opposed to just letting my brain blather on here. And that actually that says a lot just right there.
Uh-huh.
There's no there's no disconnect between the actual old world and the old practices of the old world. Like there's, you know, turn a corner and you're like, oh, wow, that's a shrine. Uh, that's a torii gate, and that's a Shintoist shrine, which is pre-Zen Buddhist shrine, and it's just there, and it's there, and there's a skyscraper above it, and somehow that old world, and it's really powerful. Somehow that old world exists, collaterally or parallel with the new world.
Yeah.
And that says a lot because you have these people that are they're working 6 days a week. They're, there's not a lot of cultures. There's like businessmen, there's like the kids, and everyone, it's like hyper socialization. Like in America here, our schools they have two jobs. I learned this pretty early: education and socialization. And I think that for everyone, the public education system here fails someone somewhere. But in Japan, you would not fail from either. Period. Um, in Japan, everywhere I went, like they have those bumps now at the curbs. Like
Hmm.
people like make the sidewalk smooth and they put that yellow thing down, looks like a Lego brick.
Yeah.
In Japan, they have that, but from that, there is a path with four parallel bars, and it goes along. And probably on day two or three, because they're everywhere, I was like, this is really interesting. This has to have a purpose. And it wasn't until maybe day six that I saw a blind lady walking that path.
Hmm.
Uh, excuse me.
It's all right.
So it is. It's really something. Like, I mean, I had a picture of a like at a subway. Usually here, that it's like handicap, or whatever, but there it's like pregnant with baby, with cane, blind. Like they're so like everything's really like thought out and organized. Like you always see recycling at like restaurants and stuff. You don't see a lot of even trash receptacles. You have to take it home and throw away your own trash.
Mm.
You can't just be somewhere, and just throw it, and it's kind of sad because actually Japan is changing quick, and the youth, they don't want to do the old way, they want to, do the American way or whatever. And that sounds really weird, but it's true. They want to like talk in public. And I know that sounds that concept alone sounds really weird, but it does work. No one's feelings get hurt because everyone's together,
Mhm.
It's I think that I think that maybe you and your girls or whatnot, and Julie, I'm not quite sure, but it is would be an extremely stressful trip unless you knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
I think that I was ready. I wasn't quite prepared for how wonderful it would be, but also how incredibly difficult it would be. I mean, like, it took a while.
Disorienting.
It was really something.
Yeah.
This is like I swear this episode's supposed to be about Muscleman, but the conversation about Japan is a big conversation. I was there a week, and it changed my life, Mike. I left alcohol there. I'm never drinking alcohol again, ever.
Mhm.
I know that probably sounds like, oh yeah, that's what all people who abuse alcohol say, but no, it's true, and it's a life decision for me. And I had 45 years, and I'm in my second life now.
Mhm.
It sounds very 12 step. I don't need steps. It's always been here. So, that just can't waste any more time, you know?
Is that a like a reinvention, or is it that you want
Yeah.
to be healthier, or all of the above?
It's that I have so much to live for, you know? And every day I need to stay focused and not cloud my mind. Um, because, I mean, it's a real blessing to be here. And I mean, when I'm unclouded, um, I will never be bored again, you know.
Mhm.
I have like a million ever since tax season ended, actually, I've had a list a mile long, you know. I don't know if you have problems with being uncreative or if you get bored, but I would imagine not. You are a pretty creative guy. Um, and I think I was too. We all have different talents. Speaking of talents, there's almost a Justin Scared that came in there. Your daughter, let's cut from the muscle man to the important thing here. The next generation of what was it? The landfill babes.
Yeah, that's still a developing story. We're trying to figure all that out.
It's good. It has a very hideous kids ring to it.
I know, I thought it was a great name.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's cool
She
that
really
she's
killed it on that solo. I mean, you hear it all the notes that you need to hear, and you don't hear a lot of the rest. And it's just like I couldn't play that right now to save my life.
yeah, it's to me, I think what I enjoyed the most was just the stage presence and the joy.
Oh yeah.
It's a joyful song, and it was a great song choice. Like
Oh
there's
yeah.
people in their 40s out in the audience were just like, yes, the Cure. Everyone loves the Cure,
Oh
everyone
yeah.
loves that song, but it also just it will always be cool. You know what I mean? Like that song. There's never been a
Oh,
moment when that song wasn't the coolest song.
oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, The Cure has such great, uplifting, beautiful songs. Like, pe some people hate on Friday I'm in Love, but that's would be the second go-to.
Yeah, it's a great one.
And then you got the really, really iconic but very downbeat, slow ones like Love Song and a couple other ones that I can think of, and really cool ones. Like I love The Forest a lot.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
just some,
Yeah, I think that their secret part of their secret is that they like if you are really depressed or if you are heartbroken, then you turn
yeah,
to the Cure.
yeah.
But they also have songs of just like euphoria.
It's true. It's true. I didn't never, I mean, I kind of thought of it that way, but yeah, if you're, I guess, well, that same coin, if you're feeling really, really happy and you want to be depressed, you also listen to The Cure.
I guess it's just like I'm not gonna put on Joy Division if I'm in a good
No,
space. You know what I mean?
no, no, no.
So
Although the early Cure is really interesting, and they really were kind of, they weren't Manchester, but they were really kind of like trying to take up the torch a little bit, and
yeah,
certainly more than New Order. New Order is its own thing, even though it's the same people, it's a new order.
yeah,
you know.
sure.
But the Cure started off really kind of angular and punk and kind of Manchestery, and and Robert Smith doesn't have this like outlandish look that is so iconic.
Yeah,
He, he was just a that I think it was the No Dogs from Space series, which is so inspiring. Kind of inspired this podcast itself a little bit, but um his look and his ability to just not care is
hmm,
absolutely amazing. That's a very Japanese thing right there.
yeah,
100%. Like now they wouldn't do it, but I mean you could see that in society there. But yeah, it's really interesting. So I don't know where I want to wrap this up. I want to keep talking. I hope it's not going too long.
I appreciate you sharing
Yeah,
all
of
that.
course.
I'm glad that it was a transformative experience.
Yeah. I want you and your family to go. But
Well, I've always wanted to go to Japan. I mean, I've never had like the deep um like to me it is just I guess it's what you're saying. It's that sense that they are leading the world in a lot of ways. And I've heard about things like the vending machines everywhere, and I've heard about like how efficient things are, and I've just
Mhm.
like you said, the ancient customs, but yet the modern
Yeah.
um, innovations, and all those reasons I've found it fascinating as an idea just to visit. Um,
Yeah.
for me, it would probably involve the Disney parks, which are
Yeah, yeah,
widely
yeah,
known as the best in the world because it's Japan.
yeah. I mean, I can only imagine what that waiting in line experience is like.
Mhm.
Like, I know I bring up the least fun, but I mean, the Japanese know how to line up,
Yeah,
and also they know how to handle handle decorum in public, you know?
yeah.
Like it would be wild. I mean, I wanted to go. We couldn't even get the subway, and it was actually my fault because we had a problem with an app for a pass, and everything there was very difficult. I mean, we had times where it was like, okay, let's leave our floor, the 23rd floor, which by the way gave us pretty much spins and dizziness every day. Not to mention the time change, but it was like, let's leave the floor, go down to the hotel lobby, across the hotel lobby to the next elevator, which everything there is not just X and Y, there's also Z. So there's three axes. So when you Google stuff, you're like, oh, let's go to a sushi restaurant. You walk across the street, walk there, and then you have to go up a skyscraper to the third floor, go across that skyscraper to the fifth, walk through a department store, and then way at the top in the eighth, there's the sushi restaurant. You're like, how? How? How do normal people do this? You know, it's that crazy. Like it
Mm.
really is next level. Like the day we left, like we went out, went to the left. We hadn't went to the left yet, and it was a giant, incredibly wealthy department store, grocery store, and then you just kept going. And we went and went and went for blocks and blocks in this complex underground. You next thing you know, you're in like a really nice clothing store. Then you're going down, then you're going up. And then we actually finally got to a place where there was an escalator.
Mm.
They were on the fourth floor, and it was a pool hall. This is where it turns into a kung fu movie. There was an escalator, and the escalator went to the ceiling and stopped and was not working.
So you're trapped.
Well, all I know this is if we were to hang out at that pool hall and if we were to cause trouble, we probably would have been killed by the Yakuza.
Hmm.
Which, by the way, fun note for me, I have tattoos
Hmm.
with kanji. Tattoos are kind of like a special thing in Japan. It's like you can have them, but that means you run one of the wards. So I
Okay.
pretty much kept my sleeves covered.
Uh-huh.
But I did go out one day. But I mean, I got some interesting looks there. It
Yeah.
all you need to do is be 6'2". You
Yeah.
don't need you don't need to have kanji tattoos.
You're
I
like
used
a,
to I used to think that might look weird, and then I realized to Japanese people, there's English everywhere, and they're wearing shirts with English on it, and they like our alphabet. And
yeah.
there's probably nothing more normal than seeing a foreigner with kanji tattoos. Like, oh, okay. Well, doesn't your shirt say Nike?
Yeah, it's true.
So that was kind of weird. At least the script is in the right way and it's facing down and it means Yosemite and it translates essentially to either superior victory, beauty, earth, or as I recently got off Google, excellent win, beautiful land. Which, either way.
Yeah.
Either way, it's Yosemite. The girl that did it was Taiwanese, and the kanji system is an ancient system. It's a Picto language, and it's like, you know, every single essentially syllable is a word and has a multiple meanings, like the Musselman thing, which means meat. So
Mhm.
the kanji verse head, but hideous kids.
What about
We
them?
we knew it in high school. The HK. I remember I wanted to get it tattooed.
Oh yeah.
Forehead, but if you rotate it 90 degrees so that it's like that,
Uh-huh.
HK, it means heaven.
Oh yeah. I think I knew that.
It means heaven.
Hmm.
Um,
All right.
so it's in the word Nintendo because Nintendo means leave luck to heaven,
Mm.
which is really fascinating. And Nintendo has a fascinating history too, because
Mhm.
they started out as a toy company and they actually marketed themselves in America as a toy company.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so I'd sent you a picture of a Akuma. He was the Street Fighter guy, and he has heaven on his back.
Ah, okay.
See that the kanji?
Yeah, I get it. Okay.
So there we go.
Mhm.
That's the HK.
Mhm.
I just find it really interesting.
Yeah.
Also, immortal. That's also relevant. to the symbol. I've been really focusing on learning a little Japanese.
Yeah, it's good.
どうもありがとうございます.
Yeah,
Pretty good, right?
you get this expression on your face when you're really
Yeah.
trying.
Yeah. Well, I've always known I'm good at math and language. It's just language, like you can learn it, you could study it for 10 years
Mhm.
and you could know every single word, every word. And you could go to Japan and you wouldn't be able to say a thing.
Yeah,
Not one, not even like just a simple like hi, hi.
because there's so much inflection and
Well,
exhaling and inhaling and all that.
it's the using of the language and I would say confidence of the language would be what
Okay.
I would say.
Okay.
I actually think some people thought I spoke Japanese because I could say it, but then it's like what I can actually say is yes, no, thank you very much. I received this blessing.
Mhm.
Uh, Itadakimasu. That's what you have to say. So like when you get food, they'll just be like, like at the ramen place or whatever, just over and over, like "arigatou gozaimasu." They hold the mas there, like "arigatou gozaimasu," and it makes you think in Spanish. Like Sarah was like thinking in Spanish, and I was. There is something there that is very Spanish, but
Yeah.
so then you get that, and you're supposed to go "itadakimasu," which means I respect the work that went in this food. It's essentially it's either bon appetit
Mhm.
or in American, let's eat,
Mhm.
or to some larger degree, it's amen.
Uh-huh.
It's it's
Okay.
it's it's a spiritual thing for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Um, very spiritual. And that's just how they are there, you know. There's that too. There's no there's no religion is in everything,
Mhm.
everything. And it's Shintoism, which is essentially the ancient religion. And then there's kind of more of the organized a lot of people don't think that Buddhism, essentially Zen Buddhism, is a religion because it's not. It's more of a philosophy. But Shintoism is a religion, and it's still very prevalent there,
Mhm.
and it's in literally everything.
Do people gather like for religious services, or is it?
I don't know. The weird thing is we got in Sunday night to Narita, the airport, stayed there before moving into Tokyo, which or Shibuya. Technically, we're in Shibuya. But we left on Sunday. And Sunday is the one day where people are with their family. And so I don't know if they practice religion at home.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if they practice religion with their own congregation. I
Mhm.
would assume it would only be people that they knew, and I mean that's how a lot of people congregate. But they're just not. I don't think. I think Japanese people can go through their whole life like only having maybe one or two friends,
Mhm.
which is sad. And depression there is really high.
Yeah.
You kind of feel that because everyone has their own like role and they have to stay in their lane. And unless
Mhm.
something else happens, I would imagine many relationships there start by, oh, it's that girl I saw at the Kobini who gets off the subway when I do, and since everything runs on the same time at the same minute, she looked at me and I saw her eye for like 30 seconds or a second actually, and that
Yeah.
was it. The next day I saw her eye for like a second and a half.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, if you
it
think about it, like if you're in the context of like you're in the downtown, you're in the central business district. I mean, everything is just like, how do you? I would imagine if you're in a small town out in the middle, countryside, it would be a different story.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I told Sarah that I was like, wow, it'd be so amazing to get to actually explore Japan because
Sure.
but the thing is, I posed the question to her as a hypothetical, which she's not a big fan of those, and I'm fine with hypotheticals. I, I gave her the ultimate hypothetical. Here, I'm going to tell you it. This is what I told my wife. I said, which would you prefer if all of a sudden, and just bear with me here, this is just a hypothetical. I said, which would you prefer if we could never go back to America because it was all gone, as in not on the map anymore, as in eradicated, which is a terrible thing, or if Godzilla attacked right now while we're in Japan?
Oh,
She,
wow. That's
she
quite a
couldn't really
choice.
answer that one. You can answer it if you want.
Uh,
You got to pretend you're in Japan, though.
Neither one seems optimal.
No, no, no. And there was an important reason for that tangent, but I may have forgot. Most of my life, I think actually in fifth grade, I was a serious introvert, not unlike yourself, I believe.
Mhm.
And in fifth grade, I remember I had a table, and it was a fourth, fifth grade. So even fourth graders were in there, and the principal's daughter, who was my neighbor, was in there. So I had this table, and it was with me and Sean. I won't name last names. I know everyone's name, and two girls who are still around here. One's actually married or dating one of my friends here. And I don't know what it was about that setting. And so it was two and two, and we had like our little pod, And I think that I took over that class. Like really. I remember watching Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure in that class, and it was my suggestion that we do so.
Mhm.
So, I don't know about you, but I've never really quite truly known what my talent is, but it's definitely here.
Mhm.
Um, and I went to business school and I wanted to be a philosophy minor, and I got all the way to one class short. So there's not a lot of people like me. And I've always kind of been disappointed by my inability to like play guitar or anything. Like, something that I guess I remember how quickly you learn guitar. And now that I see Amelia, I'm like, oh, look out, St. Vincent. Man, holy cow. The fact that she could do that, Mike, I let's bring us full circle. Like, oh my gosh, she's has such a talent like yourself, such a talented person.
Well, she, I think officially
Raw
has,
talent.
I think she's surpassed me in musical knowledge too. I mean,
Oh man.
any
She's
band I bring up these days, she's like, oh yeah, I love them. Like she already knows. Like she knows
yeah,
more Bowie songs than I do. We were driving yesterday. She's singing along. I'm like, I don't know this one.
she doesn't have to go out and spend $25 on a piece of plastic and a
True.
stupid thing, and she doesn't have to dig around in dusty old bins for records. She can just click on anything. Like I could give her a suggestion right now and she could listen to it right now, and the record could be $5,000 and there's 200 left and there was 500 pressed, and she could listen to it. Now she couldn't do that before.
Yeah. Well,
So let's talk about my record journey, but let's finish the Amelia thought here for sure. Like the thought ever ends, because I'm already like, wow, I'm her biggest fan. When does her album come out? How many are we pressing? What's the record label going to be called? Are we bringing up Foul Scrooge Productions?
yes, all of the above.
Good, good. Because oh my goodness, it literally floored me. I was
Very
so
kind.
talented. What's that? No,
It's
it's
very
true.
kind.
It's true. Is all true. I mean, I don't have any kids and I won't ever have any kids, but I mean, kids are great and it's so awesome to get to experience your close friends, you know. Children like that is so amazing. Like, it's such a talent, man.
And I remember you holding her when she was about 6 months old.
I did too. Yep. I was chosen. I got some special drool even.
Of course you did.
Yep.
So you'll enjoy this. I She was playing someone else's guitar because she broke a string like the day before, and I was like, okay, I got this. Let me
Yeah,
go get
yeah.
the strings, which I've had since 1998. I've never restrung that guitar in my life because you know me. I always have like
It's a
the
pain. It's a pain.
worst equipment, and that's sort of the point. Is like, what
Point.
can I do with this horrible
Yep.
setup?
Yep.
That's the whole aesthetic,
That's
and
the whole point.
this is the whole point. And so anyway, I restrung that B string, and then I thought everything was fine. And then I get there, and her teacher was like, "Hey, so she can't play this." And like the bridge is like, it's like because I apparently used an acoustic guitar string, so it's just a super thick string. It was so heavy that it pulled up the bridge, and so like if you're trying to play anything, like the distance between the wood and the string is like this.
So, you know what? You know what, Mike? That's a sign. Like, um, remember when I was talking about alternate tunings?
Uh-huh.
some of the greatest. This is what we should have done, but we weren't smart enough. So
Yeah.
you have to do it for Amelia. She has to forge her own thing.
Hmm.
So like remember like the presidents of the United States of America, the bassist had two strings.
Yeah.
And the guitarist had, I think, three. So you just play power chords. They stripped it down and made it so simple and stupid, and they made millions.
Yeah.
So there was a band, I can't remember the name, but there was a band with a guy, and he had a combination of bass and guitar strings,
Mm.
because you can do these alternate tunings. Like I think
Yeah.
everyone by now knows drop D, where you just bar, you bring the big E string. Here's my intelligence coming through. The fat string, you bring
Yeah.
that down so you can just bar chords, and it's really useful for metal and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But she could make there's combinations in tunings. Like I was teaching you that blues tuning where it's like a B flat or something, and
Hmm.
also like all kinds of folk musics, and then of course we love Sonic Youth, and like they had when their equipment was stolen, they couldn't even play anymore.
Hmm.
Because they own like 50 guitars owned with special tunings because it's like, oh, it's this song, let's get this.
Yeah.
And that's how complicated of a band they were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you should encourage her to not think in the box. You should be like, Amelia, you know that this is a compromise to your talent because, just say that not only do you think outside the box and go like, hey, what box? There is no box,
Yeah.
you could
So
string
what
up.
you're saying is I should have just gone with the serendipity of me being an idiot and putting an acoustic string on it.
I mean, like a mistuned guitar is an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Depending on how you
Yeah.
do it.
Maybe.
The B flat or whatever, the blues one is really cool because it strums as a chord.
Yeah.
And that means a lot, right? I mean, you're the music guy. You're the brains of this operation, in my opinion. Me, I'm just around just flapping my arms or whatever. But you should just let her know that, she doesn't have to be the Easter bunny.
Convention.
Easter bunny, Easter bunny gets drunk at Easter.
Oh,
She doesn't
yeah.
she doesn't have to do that nonsense. She can be, whatever string she wants. And if she has the kind of musical knowledge that you have, she'll be able to do that. And the thing about that that's so great is that it'll allow her to play in her own way, and people will see it and they'll go, how the heck's she doing that? And a lot of it will be the tuning, you know.
Yeah. I
And
think
no
I
one
think
no
that
one knows that stuff.
I think it is cool to think about her and kids like her, like with the amount of things that we have at our fingertips. I mean, we have everything in this house that we could use to record
Yep.
any
You
any
guys
idea that you have. We have the little drum set, we have the bass, we have, pedals, like we can.
you're really good at GarageBand if you don't want to play the beat.
Right.
This is going to sound weird, but this is even what the professionals do now. It's like not steal, right? Great people steal, borrow the beat,
Yeah.
slow it down, change it, add something, and then all of a sudden, actually, it's legally okay.
Uh-huh.
Um, essentially sampling has been done since look at the Paul's Boutique. They got away with pure murder, and probably because they were white. Let's be real here.
Yeah.
Because De La didn't. Well, that was
I
the last great one. It's those two albums that are held up as the great ones because after that, the record execs came after everyone.
Yeah. And that's why you can't find De La Soul anywhere.
And now we're full circle.
Yeah.
Now it's like anyone could do that because guess who's not really making any money? The record labels anymore. And let's face it, they were kind of crooked anyway. And when I say that as kind of crooked, I mean that as ridiculously crooked. So,
Well, what I would like to me, everything is so click track nowadays. That's where
yeah, especially country, especially Nashville.
I mean, everything is. I would like to hear some variation in like that. That's something that
Make the beats for her, like seriously.
if
Like
I
that's
were,
what
oh,
you
she
do.
could do it. She's better than me. But I'm just saying, like,
If you want to work with her, if you want to produce her,
if you
make
if you look back and you listen to some of our stuff, which
yeah,
that's a whole other topic. But like some of the reasons I love it the most are just it's the weirdness of it. It's the out
yeah,
of it. It's the
yeah.
and nowadays it's such a weird thing because you have all these things at your fingertips and you can make anything sound good.
Yeah.
But is the point to make it sound good? Like,
Right.
how do you sort of
Oh,
extract something interesting out of what is zeros and ones.
yeah, exactly. And that I was listening to podcasts on the plane, numerous ones that I was listening to that guy actually that he did the is reading the Dylan book. I've been listening to him, Otis Gibbs. I was
Uh-huh.
listening to his podcast and really amazing. And he's with different musicians and stuff. And I don't know if it was from that, but I recommend it. Otis Gibbs. I can't remember the name of it, but that's exactly it. Like even the big artists, like they'll make something, and then let's go back to one of the pods we did, the Chili Peppers. It's about where they were and
Yeah,
who they were with, and the mentality of who they were with. Like Rick Rubin being like someone who, I, if anything, oh boy, I'm gonna get in trouble for this, but if anything, I'm a Rick Rubin.
yeah,
Hey, I'm here. I can facilitate anything. I can't do anything, but
yeah.
I can go like this.
You have a presence.
That's it, man. That's it.
You know it
That's
when you hear it.
I have a trained ear. I am a, if nothing else, I own a million records. I should know something. I've always known a lot about music. I
Well,
think
but
that,
that Blood Sugar Sex Magic is the perfect example to me. That album, if it were made in, I don't know, 2000, I would hate it. I would hate everything about it because it would be a
yeah,
click track. It would be, I don't know, just like it would be tamed, it would be cleaned up, and it would be 45 minutes as opposed to 80. And
yeah,
all the things that I love about it, it's the Rick Rubin effect. And
yeah. The Rick, I like how you said that. You were like, it's the Rick Rubin effect. And I was like, I understood it, but man, it was almost Japanese there. Rick Rubin effect.
it's
It's true.
the
He just zens it out. He's just sitting there in his weird beard and his hair going like this, and is like, yes.
and I guess what I'm saying is you could program or play all of the parts in a song like Breaking the Girl,
Uh-huh.
and it would sound fine, but it would not catch my ear. And I don't know what that is. It's I maybe it's because I listen to a lot of like very produced music because I do that in my day job. Um,
Yeah.
and it's what people want and all the things. And I get it. I get the way that pop has always been that way to a certain extent. But when you're talking about like music that moves me
Yeah.
um, out of that, uh, what do you call it? That box. Um, I don't know. And that's why it's hard for me to find things nowadays.
Yeah.
People tell me, oh, you need to hear this, you need to hear this. And I haven't taken the time to listen to the new Taylor Swift album.
Right.
I'm
You're
sure
probably
it's
not.
good, but I don't know. I now
Yeah.
now now that it's like I have everything at my fingertips, what do I grab? What do I actually choose?
Now that everything is on an even playing field as far as what you can listen to. So
Yeah, and I'm not going to go for something new. I wish I could say that I would, and I
you
probably
can you,
would.
you can listen to my next pick, which is not the Pogues.
So are we not
The,
going to do the Pogues? What's happening here?
I left the Pogues in Japan.
Okay,
They're gone.
but it's still your turn, so I guess you
Yeah,
get.
I know. I got 45 more years on this rock spinning around and the sun shines every day.
I love it. All right, so this is our like
Except for tomorrow
transitional.
morning, because except for tomorrow morning, because I have to go to the dentist at 9 a.m.
Ooh, real life.
It'll be okay. I've passed out twice in the dentist chair in the past 2 years.
Ugh. So this is our transitional episode. Does that mean that we're starting season two?
I kind of went into this thinking like, well, it'll just be like nice to Zoom with Mike, talk to Mike, but I do want it to be an episode, and I think we should put it out, maybe
Sure.
patrons only, but I think it's kind of, a first episode. I know
Rebirth.
it's kind of sad because I actually have the record that I want to choose. I got it in Japan. It's the most valuable record in my collection. I also had it as a goal to get in Japan, and I found it. It's called, and I don't have it with me, which is kind of.
That's
I
okay.
actually I might have it here. I had a copy of it, and this is going to get real record nerdy for a second. I had a copy that was a reissue, and the way you can tell is that the yen price was printed on it.
Hmm.
That's how you can tell what one. So there's a 2,000 yen and a 2,200 yen and a 2,300 yen. I had the 2,300 yen. I lost it before I went to Japan. I actually believe it's in my collection. It's just my collection's so big.
Hmm.
So I was like, well, I want to find one with the Obi strip. And all an Obi strip is a piece of advertising, because most Japanese albums are in English. So it's like telling it's people that only speak Japanese what it's all about. So you're gonna love this story. I'm gonna preface it really quick, set you up here. Um, so I found it in Japan like on the fifth day or fourth day, and I actually went back to the shop. I found out it was an original. I bought it. It was 9,900 yen,
Hmm.
and it was a original 2,000 yen. It's essentially the first album because uh, these guys had a first album, but it's all covers.
Hmm.
Their influences were Sabbath and Cream and heavier stuff. Um, some of the guys, I can't remember the name specifically. I don't want to, this is just a preface here to the episode, but so the album is called Satori, which means instant enlightenment.
Hmm.
And the band is called Flower Traveling Band. And the lead singer of Flower Traveling Band is Joe Yakamano, and he replaced Bob Marley in the Wailers.
He replaced Bob Marley like after Bob Marley died.
Right.
Hmm. Okay.
Give it a spin. See what
All
you
right.
think.
Is it
Check him out.
on streaming services?
Yes. Hi.
Okay. Outstanding. Hey, thank you for taking me on that journey.
Of course.
We should have
I
a
had
little.
you in my pocket the whole time, Mike.
We should have a we
The whole
should have
time you were there with me.
we should have an Easter egg here at the end for anyone who listens. Send a self-addressed stamped envelope too, and we'll give
Five,
you
five, five.
a Kinnikuman.
There you go.
No, we won't. I
Cool.
can't. I can't keep that promise. I don't know where mine are.
You'll find them. You got to get that hand. The hand in purple, because there was like other colors like green, blue. The purple one, I guess, is worth hundreds of dollars.
You know where all my muscle men are?
You think you have them still?
They are wherever all my old Nintendo games are.
Are you
The
saying the
the treasure trove lost. We're,
Oh, I bet they're at your house somewhere in Red River Valley. That's what I
I've
think.
sure looked. I've looked
Really?
high and low, man.
Huh.
It's not the
Huh.
kind of thing someone would throw away either.
That's very strange.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't know what happened to my muscle man. I have one original muscle man. It's a guy, little one, and it's not the announcer, is a soccer ball.
Mm.
So soccer ball man. Football man. I guarantee that's his name too. And oh, here you go. Here's the Easter egg. Look up Banky Man because I don't think I had that figure, but when I looked up that one, I was like, oh boy. Because the Japanese, nothing's off limits. So I was like, oh, well, that's where the poop emoji's from.
Ah, good.
Banky Man.
All
So,
right.
arigato gozaimasu.
Hey, thanks, Casey.